what kind of baby? Mama, she again chop. Is it a king? Is it a princess? So you see me generation travel through this chop. 16 days and a day next year.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central in Trinidad, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web. At this time, a pleasant good day to you. Yes, it is, of course, the corridor transformation right here in Trinidad and Tobago, but more importantly, out of East Port of Spain, and to be more specific, of course, George Street, to be more precise. And yes, indeed, of course, one cannot ignore the fact that of the socio-economic and psycho-cultural conditions that exist not just in the East Port of Spain area, but along the East-West corridor, for which we have taken, of course, the sole and, of course, contemporary responsibility. Only on Sunday, of course, we had the pre-budget arrangement or the pre-budget consultation that we expect the results of which will feed into the national budget when it becomes, of course, a reality sometime in September. But the fact of the matter is that the reality of our circumstance in Trinidad and Tobago, whether it be crime, I was wondering what was happening on the screen. But of course, I suppose the technology is such that it is subjected, of course, to what is called Murphy's Law. When something has to go wrong, it will at the worst possible time. As he has returned, let me just check that just to make certain. I've seen a technical issue that is coming and going. I trust that, of course, we wouldn't get that for the rest of the night because, of course, we have a bumper program planned for you. Let me just, of course, make some correction just in case. Yes, indeed. All right, so we have that. We have, okay. All right, let me just take some load off the system just to make sure that it doesn't malfunction. Because based on the indication that we got earlier, but of course, as technology will go, is not perfect, and some people may prefer to go back, of course, to the old time days of chalk and board, and of course writing on paper, etc., as opposed to electronically indicated or electronic signature that we have grown accustomed to through, of course, computerization and IT technology. But that being as it may, let's hope that it holds out for the rest of the night as we continue to treat with the matters that are of concern to us at the present time. Let me say off the cuff that it is despicable, it is dishonest, it is reprehensible. It is, of course, another chapter in the Rowley state of affairs in terms of his perpetual and phantasmagorical lies that he tells on a daily basis when he was Prime Minister. Now that he's no longer Prime Minister, has no blasted power, but of course attempting, of course, to salvage some kind of what I consider to be a self-righteous indignation, and at the same time absolving himself from the iniquities that he disseminated and imposed on Trinidad and Tobago between 2015 and the 28th of April 2025, this year, just about 2 point something months ago. It is very important that you understand that, and at the same time attempting, of course, to deflect attention and hoping that the present administration will be cowed, will be intimidated, will become in a state of trepidation because of the obvious investigations that must take place, having regard, of course, to the fact that the government, once again, I'm seeing that dark background showing up from time to time, and I'm wondering why. Let me just find out why this is happening. Let me find out why this is happening. Let's just find out why this is happening. Why this is happening. Why this is happening. All right, okay. So I will be in the background for a moment, whilst of course I look at what is technically going wrong at this point in time. So you would forgive me. Let me see what is happening.
Now foundation grassroots, you got to know the truth. If you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where to go. Louis Culture and Anthony Selassie, say so.
Long ago,
long time ago.
yes, long ago, pirates had their fun
See a buccaneers.
in the burning sun. 16 men,
16 there.
and a dead man's chest. Yo, yo, yo,
Father,
and a bottle of rum.
summer chance.
You see, I think we may have gotten that corrected. I'm not going to cast it in stone, except to say, of course, that here it is, of course, Dr. Rowley with a typical case of his phantasmagorical stories. And let's hear him as he, of course, told us that he was detained in Antigua, and he doesn't know for what reason, and somehow he has, of course, targeted the present administration for orchestrating some kind of plot against him. I don't know if it's because his conscience is pricking him, but let's hear what he has to say.
And it doesn't say much for me either, except that I would like to know what exactly did I do?
Let's start that clip over again.
As a public officer, and now as a private citizen, to cause the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago to put me, whatever they may want to say, however you may want to view me, the one thing you could never erase from the history and the future of this country is that I was the Prime Minister of this country, and I am the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And when I held that office and all the other offices, I always did so with a caveat that I don't do it for myself. I do it for the greater good of the nation, to uplift the nation. And the fact that I, as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, 3 months after I left office, this is the country where a Prime Minister could leave office and 3 months after, he's the subject of Interpol activity. Doesn't say much for Trinidad and Tobago. And it doesn't say much for me either, except that I would like to know what exactly did I do in my life as a public officer and now as a private citizen, to cause the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago to put me in that situation. And if they could do that to me, they could do it to others. You will have seen the Attorney General having the shocking presentation in the Parliament a few weeks ago. As Attorney General, the country's chief law enforcement officer, who should be protecting the rights of all citizens, doesn't matter which side of the floor he's in Parliament, getting up in the Parliament and pointing at members of Parliament and saying, "are coming for you, and for you." And I watched that and was appalled. And I saw no objection to that from quarters in this country. Apparently, we are normalizing that kind of behavior in this country. And I experienced it last week. So today, I am calling on the Prime Minister, head of the National Security Council, and the Commissioner of Police, the officer with the responsibility for the Bureau of Interpol in Trinidad and Tobago, to tell not me, tell the country what crime I am being investigated for and why it is that the police in Trinidad and Tobago could not carry out their duties here and had to resort to Interpol. Because one thing I should tell you, Interpol is not an investigating agency. Interpol is an agency that comes in where criminal matters have been determined and persons are, in most instances, attempting to flee justice. I call this development nothing more than a dastardly defamation fabricated, constructed, and executed by the government agencies of Trinidad and Tobago, led by a government which seems to be more interested in retribution, hate, spite, divisiveness. And it's only such a government will put this stain on Trinidad and Tobago. Only such a government will put this stain on Trinidad and Tobago. It means that if they come out now and lie that they don't know about this and they didn't do this, then this remains on Interpol's list. Because who put it there is who has to take it off. And if they don't take it off, it means that every time I travel, anywhere I go in the world, I can expect this and worse to happen. This happened inside of CARICOM. You could imagine if I was in Belgium or South Africa or in Timbuktu, what would have been my position? Thankfully, it first arose in Antigua.
Yes, indeed, people. Of course, you heard Dr. Rowley, but I'm looking as well for a newspaper article that carried, of course, this particular story, and you would not believe that the matter was in fact resolved in Antigua. But Rowley comes here with his usual, of course, the typical phantasmagorical stories, as I keep saying, and of course is reminiscent of Emailgate, where he put, of course, that what I consider to be tragic and far-reaching and threatening the national security and the government of the day in the greatest exhibition of treason anywhere in the Caribbean. Rowley did that in the Parliament only to get the office of Prime Minister, of which he boasts today, and saying that, of course, nobody could wash that away. I suppose it's the same thing of Stuart Young. Nobody could wash away that he was a Prime Minister, but for a couple hours. And so, of course, the quality of delivery or the quality that one would have brought to the office of Prime Minister is, in the context of Trinidad and Tobago, a serious and, should I say, topical issue. But it was Rowley, of course, after, of course, claiming that he was so badly treated in Antigua. When he came back here, this is what he had to say. This is an express report where, of course, he was addressing his imaginary ordeal because he have converted, of course, a delay into a detention. That is the nature of the beast, and then use it as an opportunity to try to extract and try to find out what the government and the law enforcement and or the office of the Attorney General is doing about him and members of his party, or put another way, members of the party that he led, that he is still, I assume, a member of, talking about the PNM. And therefore, the following sentences will, of course, put things in perspective. This is what he said. Referring to Rowley, the article says, on his return trip via Antigua, Rowley said that the same thing happened, this time with a different officer. That to me is a blasted lie. But it is intended, of course, to generate the sensationalism that Rowley, through his theatrics and histrionics, we have seen stereotypical of him over the years. So we know that that is a blasted lie. How the hell you went, you was going to Montserrat via Antigua. They stop you. They apologize. Or when you're coming back, you get the same treatment when they stop you, saying that Interpol is interested in you. That is a story that clearly is not just phantasmagorical, but betrays not just common sense, but it also betrays logic. But when coming to Rowley, we know that it is permissible because of what he has done over there. Now don't tell me I don't know, because we are going to examine that in a while as well. But listen to what he says. On his return trip via Antigua again, so he puts it in perspective so that you can believe the nonsense that he's speaking. And then he said, Rowley said the same thing happened, this time with a different officer. You see how clear it is. Nothing different to Emailgate, and how, of course, he presented the information in the Parliament of all places and had all of us riveted to our chairs to hear that a certain Prime Minister, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, then conspired with members of her cabinet or her government to kill a journalist, among other things. I mean, it reeks with the typical storytelling nature of a pernicious nature of Rowley. He could make up, of course, a story and tell us, for example, the devil is living at the Devil's Woodyard, that volcano in Trinidad. He will make up a story like that. So do not for one moment take him serious. But let's examine some other things that he said in that Express article. It continues. After a protracted period, the officer came back to me and said to me that I was on some list. He said, a protracted period. Notice in Trinidad, he's making it look as though it is a detention as opposed to a delay. Take note, that is the nature of the beast that we are dealing with, and we know him, and therefore his modus operandi will be exposed on this and other platforms, because that is the evil that is the manifestation and the embodiment of Rowley. And he continues, look at it green now. He explained that the officer could not provide details, but referred him to a superior. The superior explained that this development is as a result of mistaken identity, Rowley said. So he has put an explanation that is logical and common sense into the public space, but he wasn't finished because he wanted to get at specific things. Like Jeremy, of course, saying that he'll go to war with you, and you. We played that on this program already. And of course, wanted to give the impression that the present administration is somehow engaged in the persecution of members of his government, including himself. That is what he is saying. But we're going to see whether or not he can claim obfuscation. He can claim that he was not engaged in worse actions against the current administration that was in opposition. He has no moral or ethical authority to talk on matters of this nature, suggesting that somehow it is bad government and bad governance. That's what he is getting at. But we will hear him, of course, when he was in full control of the government, a most pernicious, a most wicked, a most diabolical, a most barbaric, a most vindictive group of individuals ever to disgrace the corridors of powers in this country. It continues. When he probed further, that is he, Rowley, the supervisor told him, another person may not have the same birth date as you. I suppose it should not have been not, but must have had a similar birthday as him. I think that is, to me, that is what the journalist or the writer was attempting to say. It cannot be that another person may not have the same birthday as you. I just don't understand that. It has to be another person may have had the same birthday as you. That sounds much more plausible in the circumstance. But of course, that being as it may, he continues in the blue, of course, highlight. Antigua police, he said, was the reply when Rowley asked who was interested in that person. So a person with a similar birthday like him, he asked the Antiguan police, Rowley asked the Antiguan police, who is this person that may have a similar birthday like me? So again, from that response and from that interaction, it is clear that the matter would have drawn a definitive conclusion that it was not Rowley they were interested in. But let's continue. Upon returning home, Rowley said he launched necessary investigations through CARICOM contacts and colleagues. But you know, we know that when he went up, of course, conveniently to get a doctorate, when it was orchestrated in such a way that Biden would have also be receiving a doctorate from a university, and of course a major influencer in that university would have been the friend of Rowley, who incidentally he gave the highest national award to that individual from Diego Martin, yes. And so they orchestrated that so that Rowley could have met Biden in such a circumstance. And of course, after that, he was able to get access to certain players in the United States administration. All part of an elaborate, complex plan. That is the level of complexity that Rowley would have put his, no doubt, ability, cognitive and intellectual ability to use wise in government, to put to use wise in government, always for sinister and evil motives, and to exculpate himself from accountability. And this is no exception. So he says, of course, upon returning home, Rowley said he launched necessary investigations through CARICOM contacts and colleagues. So he wanted to tell you that he had contacts. And then he continues in the blue highlight. It was confirmed to me then that I was on Interpol's watch list, and the issue that arose in Antigua were as a result of Antigua's police responding to Interpol and Interpol interests in me, said Rowley. Come on. Come on. And that he knew would have triggered a certain kind of response from the government in Trinidad and, of course, the police service. And the police service did respond. And they said in no uncertain terms that, listen, we have initiated no investigation. And if you know how Interpol works, Interpol will only work if it's an originating country who are members of Interpol have an interest in a fellow country, whether it be an institution or an individual or a group of persons in another country, and therefore would issue some kind of assistance requirement to Interpol to get that person back into their country, or to ask any country that that person goes into that is a member of Interpol to arrest or detain, as the case may be, because they too will have an Interpol office in all of the country, just as Trinidad and Tobago has one. That is how it works. So Rowley could have been, if it was true, could have been an interested person by another country who may have, of course, issued some kind of legal request for him. Or it could have been in most cases the place of birth or the place that the person would normally reside, and in this case, of course, Trinidad. But the point I am making, however, is that nothing of the sort occurred, because the police in Trinidad says that they are ignorant, that they have no knowledge, that they are innocent of any accusations. But Rowley would have put it out there to solicit exactly that, to find out whether or not he was in fact under some kind of criminal investigation, because it's only for criminal matters Interpol, of course, is engaged. But I want to say something more than that. I want to say to you that the level of paranoia that was built into that exercise, that experience, is, of course, unfathomable. But let's go straight, of course, to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to each and every one. Please share it live. This is something very important, and we'd like you to contribute to get the 40,000 viewers and 40,000 in contribution. Uncle Lennox, right?
Yes.
You see, I jump in your gun because not that I preempted your show, you know. You see that last statement underneath in the paragraph there, right? That statement is, Keith Rowley is very known to that, and that is an integral part of Keith Rowley. Because, sorry to cut your conversation and jump the gun, because Keith Rowley and the partner Dave Singh, right? And a check for 500,000 US was mistakenly identified. So I want to know if it's Rowley dead, brother, that they was looking for to ask about the 500,000 US dollars, which he possession and he name in America, or at that Formula One in Guyana, the company registered on there. So I wonder if it's Interpol looking for a dead man or a living man, and they isn't able to help about that, answering them question, because you move it. You see, Rowley now know that is a mistaken identity. So which one are the Rowley they're looking for, Rowley? But I thought Keith Rowley would have talked about when Sharon was walking in the garden and the special branch, the tree was going by on that special tree. When the branch would fall on Sharon, and he would have talked about that. Yeah? When the special branch, that branch break off from the tree and fall on she. And I thought he would have talked about the Inez Gate, right? When he included a discount and the Integrity Commission. They so stink that just imagine, you have every line is for a statement, but they're squeezing. Eh? Like if we're waiting for a PTSD bus and they're fighting to squeeze in to go through the door with everybody. And they say there is no wrongdoing. Rowley, here what's going on. I want to use the program as on the air. Come out and tell me, you was the Prime Minister, and you remember yesterday, not under the what, we can't point about no thieving, Rowley, and they talk about my esteemed political leader, and all the lock up ex-Attorney General, they look at all the ex-Attorney General talking about it before the court. For what? What they put him before the court is. Then we hear now, Rowley, $1 billion, you like billions. Everything for you is billions. 22 billion. You disappear in COVID for a budget. Then you come, 100 million. You put in a special works company to repair road. That disappear. 100 million for the hotspot. That disappear. Then they give Rohanson and a set of money, 300 million to pave it and infrastructure bridge. That disappear. You come now and you Enel and them take a set 235 million, put it in train one, and they ask for indemnity. And then Gaspy Dolly get $7 billion just before the last election, and 10 million on a leaking road still to answer. And yet still Fitzgerald Hines ain't by a fire tender yet. And they have set a rat-infested fire station. Where the money gone, Rowley, boy? Talk that instead. There is not mistaken identity. Everything all a mistake. Stuart Young, you is the energy minister. You take the money from NGC, or they put $5 billion loss on the book. Then you roll up a billion and take a paid NGC. There's the next 5. That's 10 billion unaccounted for. Here what's going on. I want my money because here what's going on. I need my money to buy food to eat. And or they eat too much, or too greedy. And Rowley, you want to continue again? And Stuart Young, you didn't pay the people in NGL the stock for 10 years. Where that money gone? And now we see what to do. You already are glitch. But here what's going on. 6 million is end up to be $1 billion US in Perenco. Then why is this Perenco leaving? I can tell you why Perenco leaving. Because the mischief on the make to run Woodside out of Trinidad to give Perenco the asset. But I wanted to make Perenco pay Philip the money. Because Philip and them owe them $1 billion. All the pay. Could you call Philip? All the pay them. So here we're going on. How do you make no glitch? And here we're going on. All of a sudden, when I was talking on the Lennox program, that I want to be an energy inspector. You see what oil and gas we get back all our stuff from the well and them? That is what we have to do. And here we're going on. We have all our money with Stuart Young. So Uncle Lennox, here we're going on. Before we have a glitch, right? Because talking about Rowley and his mistaken identity, I want to find out that goes from he fighting for land, right? Why he don't go to the Caribbean Court of Appeal? Have a pleasant good night. Let me give somebody else a chance.
Boy, oh boy. I'm sure that the audience has been on the edge of their seats because, of course, as I've always said, I love the responses by the very knowledgeable and the very, what I consider to be eruditic callers because he has given us, of course, a plethora of iniquities, mismanagement, and clearly suggesting that it is not about mismanagement, suggests some kind of mistake, some kind of inadvertency, but it's not so. Too much of that demonstrates that it is a plan in itself. Chaos is a plan in itself when, of course, there are repeated benefits for usually the same players. And what has happened there, and of course Mr. Feiselman has hit the nail on the head. Of course, there are some that he would have left out, such as I would have mentioned, of course, the whole question of Naikwan. Over $100 million, that is, of course, just our national, well, one of our national banks are talking about Republic Bank, and of course a member of the PNM, being of course a board member there, and suddenly that failed, ill-fated project, Naikwan, consumed, gobbled up, not only gas, but over 100 million US dollars was placed in the hands of that project, and Rowley went and opened it as a major plank of the economic recovery led by the PNM under his watch. And it turned out, of course, to be a total and absolute disaster. In fact, it literally blew up. Naikwan blew up, and not once, twice. And the second occasion, of course, taking the life of a Massey employee on the compound. And the other topic that I think he would have, of course, projected into the public domain is whether or not that mistaken in identity may well be, of course, another Rowley, where Munilal came to the precincts of the parliament, and Rowley responded in the precincts of the parliament by saying that it is not he, or who, of course, monies were wired, meeting, I think, finding its way in some South American country via the United States wire transfer system. And of course, he, Rowley, went to the parliament, in the precincts of the parliament, called a press conference and said, it's not me. And it turned out, of course, to be another Rowley. So could it be that situation that developed in Antigua? If at all it developed in the way that Rowley says, and I have no reason to believe that it has, because of the lying nature, the mendacious nature of Rowley. He has a proclivity, a tendency to engage, of course, in lies. And of course, I think the technical term for that is manic depressive psychosis, where of course he loses all sense of reality. Yes, all sense of reality, mendacious. And here it is, he comes back because he wants to find out information. That is why he came with that cock and bull story, that concoction of his very, what I consider to be fertile but pernicious, evil, wicked, diabolical ability, and utilizing his intelligence to only convey and concoct and manufacture evil, as we saw between 2015 and the 28th of April this year. So it may well be that it may well be as well a mistake in identity, yes, but it could be his cousin. But I think, of course, another reason why he may be afraid, he may think with a high degree of paranoia that they're really gunning for him, as they ought to, because I personally would not be surprised, will not be surprised. You see, he has to account for a bankrupt party back in 2015, according to Rowley, that was owing over $5 million, and suddenly they could build a political red monstrosity of steel, brick, mortar, cement for over $100 million. Where you get the money from, Rowley? So you understand that Rowley has some serious nightmares to get moving forward, and certainly after he left office, because he said only 2 months after, and somehow being a former prime minister will absolve him from all of the iniquities and all of the evil and all of the, not just misinformation, disinformation, but maladministration and misappropriation of not just our resources, but of policies and programs as indicated and outlined very splendidly by the last caller, Mr. Faizabad. I want to thank Mr. Faizabad for, of course, regurgitating and reminding us of the multiple sins inimical to Trinidad and Tobago's interests that Rowley has committed. Of course, we are yet to know how much money was given to Venezuela to pursue a ill-fated or illusionary or logically destined to fail dragon gas initiative. Let us not waste time with that. Let us not waste time with that. It failed. It failed, and this government, of course, rightfully has put it behind us, but they have a duty to try to recover the monies that were spent on that obviously ill-fated journey that Rowley and they took us through. Meandering, static, nonsensical, inimical to our economic interests and our foreign policy and relations with our largest and most powerful, arguably, economy in the world. I'm talking about, of course, the United States. Let us not waste time. Let us understand what is at stake here. And Rowley and they must pay the price for leading us down that, what I consider to be slippery slope and that rabbit hole, difficult to emerge from, and therefore presenting a tremendous challenge to the present administration to, of course, recover and to stabilize the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, and to provide a society not just with a principle of equity, not just with the principle of equity at the fore or at the forefront, but also to look at the reality that we can identify those who created that shambolic state of affairs. Rowley led that. And of course, at the same time, no presentation along that line could be concluded without saying not only did he destroy Trinidad and Tobago economically, socially, because when we look at crime and criminality under his reign, record murders after record murders, quite apart from, of course, the disaster that was the management of COVID as far as deaths are concerned. As far as deaths are concerned, it is reprehensible, it is unpardonable, it is, of course, clearly a situation where the country has been so betrayed that the only conclusion one can draw is the whole question of what? Treason. It's treasonous. And he has the audacity, the temerity, the gall, the effrontery, and the proclivity to come in our faces and say that somebody want to put his name in Interpol. He should be lucky that it wasn't a fact. Let's go to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor. Yes, good night.
You hear me good?
Loud and clear, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm in the middle of the ocean.
Yes, man.
Right
The man has gone paranoid. That's a form of madness. Because he's watching over his shoulder every minute. Go ahead.
He gone mad. Yeah, Lennox,
Yeah.
I was trying to you was talking a while ago about all his money in Venezuela and everything.
Yes.
You know? So all his money he spent. All his money spent behind the Palisade house.
Ah.
That do an investigation to find out where all the money gone.
Of course, that merits an
We really get a
investigation. He has not been able to tell us why he was Prime Minister. We'll find out now because they're trying to say it's a private enterprise. They are taking blood money, our money, to construct.
And I believe that you should, if you get to find out that take the money from the taxpayer money, build that Palisade house, I think you should seize it.
Yeah.
That belongs to the people at Trinidad and Tobago. If you take that money and build that, does not belong to no political party.
Yeah, man.
You know? So that's my contribution today. Anyway, I drive in the middle of the ocean, Mr. Lennox.
I hear you, my friend.
I'm in the middle of the ocean. I'm driving in Louisiana. I have the on that bridge. It's the middle of the ocean. Yeah.
I hear you.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much, of course, for that contribution. Yeah, we must be concerned as citizens, as those in the diaspora, and as, of course, people who have an interest across the globe in democracy, transparency, accountability, and, of course, good governance. Good governance means that there must be free flow of information from government to citizens so that they can make a proper assessment of your performance. Rowley, of course, only hit us non-disclosure clauses after non-disclosure clauses after non-disclosure clauses after non-disclosure clauses. And on top of that, recusals after recusals after recusals, demonstrated a specific and conscious and cognitive plot to refuse the population from knowing what the government is doing. And it turned out, as I have said and will continue to say, as they manufactured, as they put the building blocks in place for a criminal enterprise called the PNM. Let us not waste time. You know what I say? They put the building blocks in place for the PNM under this, what I consider to be merciless group of individuals in an institution that they say is beyond reproach, they say, but has turned out to be the quintessential, the epitome of a criminal enterprise of a mafia nature. That is what Rowley brought to Trinidad and Tobago between 2015 and, of course, the 28th of April. And the present government has a monumental task. They have a monolithic task. They have a gigantic task to, of course, address these issues emanating from that level of mismanagement, that level of conmanism and conwomanism, that level of shambalism, that level of nepotism, cronyism, that level of orchestrated dispossession of the people, or put another way, dispossessing the people of Trinidad and Tobago of their just due. That is what Rowley and his team has done. So to come here and to cry baby and to cry wolf that somebody gunning for you, from all of the evidence, it is logical that he ought to be concerned. He ought to be concerned. And at the same time, none of us must be concerned as to how he feels. He made his bed. He chose to do what they did, inimical to the interests of Trinidad and Tobago. and therefore they must pay the price, whether it's at the criminal level or at the civil level, to get back our monies. And at the same time, with respect to the former, the criminal level, that they pay in the public's interest the price, and it will include, of course, jail, blue lights and silver bracelets, in other words. Let us not waste time with that. But let us go to where Rowley, of course, in his latest iteration of obscene self-absolving himself, yes, self-absorption, self-disseminating, non-incrimination, attempt to do what? To sanitize himself. And at the same time, this bunch of jokers that are either in or out or former in the parliament, and of course, part of the kitchen cabinet, whether it be, of course, directors of state enterprises, etc. That whole, what I consider to be ecology of sinister individuals put there to dispossess and to destroy Trinidad and Tobago for their narrow 1% agenda. You ever say? For their narrow 1% agenda. That is what that was all about. And he cannot escape. He cannot exculpate himself. He cannot, of course, disassociate himself from that fact. And all the wolf crying, and all of the crocodile tears, and all of the self-cleansing will not accrue or count or tantamount to him escaping the wrath of the people, as I have said regularly during the course of the 9 years of torture that Rowley and his minions delivered unto Trinidad and Tobago. I've said in no uncertain terms, not just that evil cannot prevail over good. Good is now here, eventually. But they must also pay the price because of their blatancy, because of their conspicuous engagement, abusing office, abusing power, and recklessly putting Trinidad and Tobago in a state of almost irreparable danger. You know what I say? I say in a state of almost irreparable danger. But of course, thank God we have a group of individuals at the helm of our affairs today, 26 to 13. Including of course Tobago, which would make it 28 to 13. That will be charged or is charged with the responsibility of steering us through the narrow confines of the economic, social, crime, health, education disaster that was left by Rowley and his team of incompetence. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Lennox Smith.
Good night.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm all right, my
How are you
friend.
doing, my friend?
Hearing from you now.
Yeah, well, I'm touched base with you for the longest while because the last time I called, you had communication problem.
Yes. You know how it is with the technology.
Right, so you hear me good now, right?
Loud and clear, my friend.
All right, so here. What I was watching the news tonight,
Yes.
and I saw your good friend, Steve Scotland.
Yeah,
Senior
the fella,
counsel.
the fella with
Right.
the sword, with
On
the
a-
swordfish,
on a food
with the
drive.
swordfish face. Go ahead.
Yeah, on a food drive for the people of for the Still South.
Yes.
Right. Right, the CPEP workers on them.
The CPAP workers.
Yeah, food drive because you see the people them suffering, man.
Yeah.
And
Suddenly
he
he knows
wants
that. Yes. Go ahead. Yes. Mhm.
And he wants the government to put back the contractors and let people work.
Yes.
Dr. Lennox, let me tell you this, right?
Yes.
CNN are good at propaganda. That is the propaganda machinery behind it.
I agree.
That there is the propaganda machinery because they're looking for the sympathy of the people.
Yes.
And because a question was asked at the end of the news, should the government put back the program? And 89% of the public say yes. But let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Wasn't a budget for September 2024 to 2025 presented by the finance minister for the fiscal year $60 billion?
Yes, thereabout.
Right. And we had an election on the 28th of April, not so?
Yes.
Right. So that's 7 months. 7 months. 7 months, right? 7 months, $60 billion disappear.
Yeah. Disappeared. Just as how they cannot account for 3 billion according to the Auditor General in income, as they
Right.
have not been able to account for $1 billion in expenditure. So apart from what they spend, they can't account for. They can't account for the for income. And then of course we hear a mistake that was initiated under the watch of Stuart Young in terms of Trinidad and Tobago destined to lose income as a result of a oil and gas deal with one of the upstreamers oil companies in this country.
All right. So the PNM has been in power or had been in power for 9 years and approximately 8 months.
Yes.
That is the last I checked. 9 years and 8 months. Spending over $600 billion.
Yes.
Where that money gone, Dr. Leonard?
Can't see it.
But I'm telling you, so why must we, the people of Trinidad, continue with this?
Well, I think the
Why?
people have put a stop to it, of course, on the 28th of April. Clearly, it's 28 seats, you know. I mean, I was looking for all 39, but of course,
I was
a
looking for 41.
landslide is a landslide. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking for 41 because they don't deserve any seats in parliament. Right?
Yes.
They don't deserve
But
any seats in
39, I
parliament.
was saying in Trinidad. It was a given that Tobago would have gone the way that it has. But of course, in Trinidad,
Yes.
I'm talking about all 39.
Because they have suffered, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The people of Trinidad and Tobago. And look, I was watching something there.
Yeah.
$80 million in expired drugs.
Yeah, boy.
$80 million in expired drugs. $57 million in spare parts of buses that can't use. That money could have been spent the same poor people that Scotland trying to get sympathy for.
That's right.
Wasted money. And then you have a minister, right?
Yes.
Dr. Naim Gasby Dolly, advising people to go and get their
Suddenly, she, out of some
Right.
fit of madness, she suddenly has converted herself to the Minister of the People and Social Development and telling people where to go, even though, of course, the Minister herself has already did that. She felt that she's obligated by some streak of madness to, of course, regurgitate. But go ahead, my friend.
No, because the sympathy they're looking for, because she's one of the people, the persons that they have to do a mean test. People have to do a mean test, not so?
Yes.
Poor people.
So are
Everything-
you concluding that was an exploitative mood of the poor and the vulnerable, as
correct.
opposed to a genuine concern, with
No, that's not genuine, man.
yeah, as
That's not
opposed
genuine.
to that, genuine concern with
Yeah,
respect,
because
of course, yeah,
Because they know from down to earth.
yeah,
I believe they know from down to earth. All the time they were flapping their wings, they know from down to earth.
yeah,
You know what poverty is?
yeah.
They know what poverty is.
Yeah, they now focus on poverty. They now understand, and that those services were always there.
Yeah. But we'll keep in touch. There are no other people dying to get into it.
Yes, indeed. But I love these
Yeah,
kinds
so
of conversations. So thank you very much, of course.
You take care, my friend. Yeah.
Yes, my friend. Thank you very much, of course, for that intervention. Again, of course, very, very knowledgeable people. And while, of course, nobody is rejected on this program, let me make it clear. And whether or not, I keep saying that, whether you call it green verb, black verb, silver verb, white verb, whatever it is, the fact that once we can understand what you are saying, you are entitled, of course, to make your contribution. Let me say at this point in time as well, that, of course, you can get us on every night, except Friday nights, on YouTube. You just have to log in to Corridor Transformation and you will get us immediately from 8 o'clock to 9:30. And of course, in the case of Facebook, this is where you have to be very careful. You wouldn't get Corridor because our page, Corridor page, has been hacked and we have not been able to resolve that as yet. I have not looked at it recently. But we have an alternative page which is Alfred John, A-L-F-R-E-D, Alfred John, J-O-H-N, on Facebook, and you will get us right now as we speak. So there's no excuse not to get us. And of course, those of you who prefer, of course, later, you will take a look at the program. Well, of course, it will be there for you as we, of course, identify or itemize or indicate the date so that you can look for one today, which of course is the 22nd? Yes, the 22nd. And then of course, if you want to get the 21st, well, you look, of course, you search for the 21st and you will get that on either YouTube or Facebook. Of course, the YouTube, as I said, you just log on to Corridor Transformation and it gets you there. And in the case of Facebook, you log on to Alfred John, and you will get us there. You will get us there every night from 8 to 9:30. That being as it may, let me once again, of course, commend the caller for his astute and extremely relevant intervention, because it provides a basis for not just elaboration, but also to diversify the amount of iniquities. Because while, of course, previous callers focus on the whole question of large sums of monies missing, here it is, this caller could tell you the amount of money over the last 9 years of that administration, Rowley Andy, and asking the pertinent question, where has all that money gone? And then identify mysterious, what I consider to be enigmatic accounting, where 3 billion gone somewhere, another billion gone somewhere else. And it is about the missing ball. You know, a long time game that was played on, I think it was Express, where you can put the X where the ball is and of course get some kind of prize. That was some time ago. Well, of course, you wouldn't see the ball, so you have to imagine where it is. Well, that is what Rowley and they were engaged in, missing ball. We cannot find where the money is. Cannot find, and most people, of course, will not if you don't have an indication as to where to look for that pot of gold, that extreme amount of money that, as the caller rightly said, could have been used for the CPEP workers, could have been placed in the Ministry of Social Development, because under their watch, you talk about, of course, means tests to get a food card, to get school books, to get a laptop, all of that. And then, of course, we find that in a spectacular display of profligacy, waste, and mismanagement, clearly nestled in, of course, abuse, theft, and corruption. We have seen, of course, Train 1 investment, waste of time, and telling us, have the audacity to insult our intelligence. Just as how, of course, he insulted our intelligence by telling us that he will not close down Petrotrain, but it ended up closing down. Well, of course, in the case of Train 1 and the investment of $200 million to maintain something that will never be functional at all, but you're maintaining it. Best, of course, you had put some money into the museum. It would have cost much less than that, of course, but at least it would have some educational value. And as the caller rightly said, give it, of course, by certain, of course, with certain conditionalities, to expand, of course, the CPEP, so as the workers can get more. It could be, of course, increasing their stipend or the wage that they would be getting. All of that was possible, but no, it is about a 1%. That's the only how we could conclude. And of course, conclude where the money has gone. 1%ers. Whether it be those who import food, whether those who are responsible for what? For the purchase of those 2 boats and counting from Australia. Whether it's by sending back the Galicia and, of course, deploying their own people's ill-fated, ineffective system to take goods to Tobago. Whether it be destroying the economy of Tobago, whether it be misappropriating resources, over $22 billion under COVID. These people have a lot to answer for, you know. Rowley knows that. Both in terms of the wasting of human resource and the disappearance of huge sums in the billions of our money. Let's go to the line. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night again, Uncle Lennox. Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
And don't forget the WANA group, right? The Alwana group.
Yes.
With the kind of in Tobago.
1%ers, part of the 1%ers. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, with the special contract, and they must be paid. And bully a chief secretary when they release money for the secretary, the House of Assembly. You should pay that contractor.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Specific to pay that contractor. Yeah, you're right. Go ahead.
Right? Yeah, and then we want to find out who get the blasting license. Who bully a commissioner of police. Now, when they say the blasting license is the dynamite and them to mash up stone in Tobago to make aggregate. How we come about getting that?
Quite apart from influencing, trying to influence the acquisition of a FUL, don't forget that as well, for the same group of people, because it's his personal friend. These people really believe that the government belongs to them. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I like how we go in, and then in a quarry, illegal quarrying, right? Police do this takeout, get the perpetrator, and then you hear the perpetrator had a license 3 months ago before, but he didn't collect it. Eh? You hear that? That fella behind you.
They backdated the license. Well, of course, all the information was that they got the license after they were charged. Now there is a backdating scenario. Is that what you're saying? That will, of course, generate a defense to, of course, let Warner they off the hook. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that based on the media report,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
And what I understand, I stand to be corrected.
Okay.
That Alan Warner is the culprit with the excavator, with the stockpile of gravel, right? When the instruction came to the officers and them that this man had a license and he didn't collect it. That's what I take from the report.
Oh, I see. I see. All right. Because
right?
because I understand that he was charged, and of course a license was given afterwards. A provisional license was given afterwards, which would have not have a date to suggest that he had a license 3 months before, awaiting collection maybe from the ministry. So we will check on that. Go ahead.
Right, and it was, now since you said it's supposed to be a temporary certificate to operate.
Yes.
So you will check it and see, but I know what I want to say, but you see Rowley and them, they're looking for we who keeping the fire up in the chulha, lighting.
Yes.
Right? And since you want to come in the spotlight, he has a question to answer, and I will ask it, and through your media, your entity, I will ask, and you give me the opportunity. It's my right as a citizen to find out. And then I want to know that a company make a $300 million US acquisition in United States when Trinidadians businessmen to bring in basic food and keep down the price of food, right? And the availability of the US dollar, you tell me that this business company take up a chemical plant in foreign and they get the approval, and then you telling me the finance minister allocated, right, $1 billion, and he say you'll see how you'll send it through the Exim Bank model, where that money went. And you know, Uncle Lennox, I'll talk easy. After you talk about all that money missing, you know, the procurement office says $5 billion in contract. A kind of shade
question. They have not been able to monitor. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have some other callers. Thank you very much. Of course, about 2 calls on the other phone. I'm trying my best to see if we can have you on the system itself so that we have better reception, and of course we are able to interact much more appropriately. But I want to say, of course, the whole question of the distribution of foreign exchange and the acquisition thereof, I think is a matter of national concern that requires, of course, a program by itself. Maybe tomorrow night we can look at the whole question of foreign exchange under the Rowley administration. Of course, we cannot escape the fact that they have pursued an elitist agenda. Elitist here meaning that the big is better, or put another way, big is better from the perspective that the big are people who are associated with the PNM, and therefore they get favors, as opposed, of course, to being equitable in terms of the distribution, as was the case when they met it back in 2015, when the UNC, in spite of the amount of resources that would never be enough in terms of foreign exchange, they were able to engage, of course, in a more equitable distribution to all of the financial institutions that apply for foreign exchange. And while of course we acknowledge that it is unlimited, foreign exchange is limited. Or put another way, it is not unlimited. The fact of the matter is that greater equitable distribution is what is required in a democracy for equity to take place and for people to believe that justice by those politicians who have to make the decision have been engaged in such what I consider to be rational and indeed equitable distribution, as opposed to favoritism and that I know him and therefore he will get, as opposed to not knowing him, and therefore he cannot get and mashing up the economy in the process. Let's go to the line. I take this one on the phone because it is customary to get Mr. Tagarigua's input from the phone. A pleasant good night. Welcome, my friend.
Hey, what happened, Lennox? I want to know.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm trying to get everybody on the system. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, you think the police taking on Rowley?
Uh-huh.
They have so much I think to study. Extortion, home invasion, fake police, I think they solved that problem as yet.
Yes.
Right? And that's an easy problem to solve, but we have time to talk about that.
Right.
All these things going on, and this man come with this thing. Right? Them fellas have their work cut out for them. As the rightfully said tonight.
Yes.
It's plenty of the police have. That's all?
Yes.
So when he come with this two this, when they pay more people in Ghana and he has short job, who do that?
Well, frankly, you know what he tried to do there? He tried to gain sympathy. But he realized that he spit in the sky and it fall in his face. Nobody has sympathy for the most treacherous, the most evil, the most hated, the anathema of the population against this man and his government is unfathomable. But typical as the present 13 blighted, they will continue to talk that kind of talk in total, put another way, oblivious to the reality that nobody wants to hear them because they are simply evil. But go ahead, my friend.
And he showed Marvin Gonzalez to the whole too.
Yes. He showed he showed Mahava under the bus as well. Yes, he said, listen.
Yeah, but you actually telling the man's a liar.
Yeah, of course, he tell him that because he said, Marvin said that if a composition of a board came with only Africans, Rowley will ask if we in Ghana or some country like that. And Rowley said, well, he imagined that I would respond that way, but I never did. So he called him a blasted liar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when they pull them up, when they pull them off the plane in Ghana, he has short job.
Yeah.
And put them with the passengers. Right?
Yeah.
Take them out of first class and put them to sit down with the rest of passengers.
Uh-huh.
Why you ain't talk about that?
Right.
Who do that? America, Interpol, who? You can remember that incident?
Yeah. You go ahead, you talk, man.
And he was the prime minister at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And they put him out.
And of course, he couldn't account for the delay when he went to California, almost, nearly a month that he was delayed in coming back home, as we were told that he was scheduled so to do based on the itinerary that was disclosed to the public.
I think that's when he come back and curse everybody and everybody should get cancer.
Yeah, because he said that true to form, because he had a delay, here it is, that people were saying that he was interrogated by FBI or internal security officials of the United States, and he was incensed. And of course, I think it was around that time he scolded a journalist who, of course, took out a picture of him around Carnival time, making him look as though he was behind bars. Yes. He refused to talk to the guy. He said, "I'm not talking to you." And of course, your conduct was despicable. And of course, you tried to embarrass me. But of course, he himself is an embarrassment. He simply appear not to know. But that in itself as well is a lie unto himself. But go ahead.
And at one stage, he said people were saying he had cancer. And he wished the whole country, everybody get cancer. What kind of man is that,
Yes. When they say that he had cancer of the throat, he then said that those persons who wish him had cancer, and he wished the same for them. He wished they have cancer. I mean, this man is despicable. He is an inhuman human being. From all indication, it appears that from physically he's a human being, but certainly of a bestial and beast-like nature.
But not everybody looking like human being is human being. You know your Bible.
I agree, because they say that very dangerous people pretending to be human beings roam the earth. So I would have no doubt in my mind. All right.
All right, you can talk about it now.
Yes, yes, indeed. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Yeah, hello. Good night, Doc.
Pleasant good night. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Karma here. Yeah. What I call you for?
Go ahead.
This email gate that this man came with in 2015. You mean in 2025 he coming back with the same kind of this thing that pie in the sky kind of thing and trying to make it look like it is true?
Yeah.
The same thing?
Yeah, and he hardened to himself. He realized that has not worked. He has been devastatedly destroyed, and he has put the PNM into a track, into a mood for total and absolute annihilation. Yeah.
Wait.
Obsolescence. That's what he has done. But he will continue on that path until he's stopped by, of course, forces that he would have no control over, because he believed he could control all the forces. He believed he's a volcanologist and he could just jump in a volcano and nothing will happen to him and he could solve the volcano. Don't be surprised, I'm saying, while of course it sounds ridiculous, but don't be surprised if he believed that he can do that, having regard, of course, to all of the evil that he would have done and believe that he has gotten away with. But of course, as the old people say, what a meteor impassio. But go ahead, my friend.
Here, and next thing too, I seen on YouTube where like Marvin Gonzalez and like Penny in a picture and saying that this woman had no shame or some kind of thing like that. You see anything like that?
No, but who is he referring to from your understanding?
Well, it looking like it's the leader of the party.
Who?
The leader, the Penny.
Oh,
looking like it's Penny.
you're talking about the Prime Minister? Or is it the Prime Minister, or you're talking about Penny, their leader?
Penny.
Okay. Right, yeah.
Yeah,
but
because to me, she in the picture.
Right, okay.
And I hear his voice.
Oh, okay. Well, at one point in time, you will see Penny as well castigating Rowley, but that would be in the period of internal elections that would have taken place here.
But this one is Marvin Gonzalez's voice I hear, eh?
Right. Well, she would have contested sometime in the past. Let me do a preempt. Let me just say I will take a look at it, and then I will make my conclusion based on what I see.
I scrolling through to find your program, and I hear this thing. I see, but that's something like that, and I see she in the picture. All right, I go listen to you off it.
Yes, man. Right. Yes. Thanks for that. Thanks for that intervention. But these days you have to be very careful. For example, when I was first told that there was a state of emergency, and of course, out of the blues, it appeared the background information was not provided, and therefore, of course, I said be very careful. Take it with a pinch of salt, that it may not be so. It may be part of the PNM propaganda machinery, of course, in overdrive and on steroids. Well, of course, it turned out that the police came and they clarified the matter, and so a state of emergencies does exist in Trinidad and Tobago, as explained by the Commissioner of Police. And of course, we know it's a strictly policing initiative that was supported or is supported by the government, because the police asked for it. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox. Good night, Freeport.
Good night, my friend. Yes.
Boy, you're going on, man. This man, like he going mad, boy. He fighting for a piece of land in Tobago. And he have all the PNM lawyer. He had take no PNM lawyer, he take a UNC lawyer.
Yeah, Ramesh had in that team, yes.
Yeah, well, the PNM lawyers them was so good, what you doing with a UNC lawyer? Boy, something wrong with that man. And I seen he have a problem with the Attorney General. He said the Attorney General pointing out people in Parliament. But if the Attorney General know that these people do wrong thing, he had to deal with it. So I don't know what to say, nothing. Lennox, and here what's going on.
Go ahead.
You know, today I hear License Office San Fernando. They're renting that property, right?
Yeah, and it would be from some PNM operative.
And a water truck does have to deliver water there every day.
Yeah, they facilitate and accommodate the deficiency of the building that would have rendered it inadequate for the purpose. But the criteria that they would have used is that if some PNM big twatty is the owner, and therefore they will use state resources to augment the deficiency, when they ought to have looked for a building that could self-generate the water supply and have a connection that is adequate for that purpose. So it is not far-fetched, and it is not impossible to think along that line when the PNM is concerned. And I'll give you another example in a while. But go ahead, conclude your presentation.
Yes, well, that license office, they renting that license office more than 50 years. That is what I could remember. Because if now it is on rental, all those time it had was to be on rental too. Because nobody buy the place to say, well, they buy the place recently and license office on it. All my life I know license office right there. And they have a car park. And the entrance to go through the car park, when the cars and them going up to the park, the back of the car dragging.
Oh, because of the height? Because of the height or the depth?
Yes,
or the,
yes,
or the,
because they didn't construct the road properly.
Oh, I see, okay. Yeah, so it has a sort of almost a V shape, so that the back of the vehicle will drag and maybe, of course, engage in, endanger the...
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the vehicle. All right, thanks very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, and I talked about the tree across the pavement yesterday.
Yes.
It was moved today.
Magnificent. So again,
kudos to David Lee and his office staff. They walk in.
Beautiful, man, and that is what we are talking about. People who can be responsive. That is what the job of a public officer seeking public office, who have sought public office, must, of course.
But we have to help them. We have to, if we can't help them.
We have a duty to be the eyes, ears, nose, lips, and ears out there to, of course, inform them, and then they must respond appropriately, having been given the resources of the state to, of course, do exactly that in the interest of the public. All right, thanks very much.
Take care.
We're out of time. And let me just, of course, say finally that situation that was mentioned earlier in terms of renting a building in this case and having the state facilitate so as to bring up the standard that is required. It is stereotypical of the PNM. You see, when Warner, we were monitoring, we here the ground report, when connected to the ground report, we were doing, of course, an investigation because we saw white trucks coming out of Sealots in Pioneer Drive. And of course, we get to understand afterwards that Rowley's friend Warner, they had bought, of course, a concrete plant in the back there from what was then called Presticon. So either they had a relationship or they bought them out. We are not clear on the final relationship that they would have had. But the fact of the matter is that Warner, we knew for sure Warner was involved. Why? Because those same trucks were seen in Tobago, of course, delivering concrete and other items to projects in Tobago. So we know, for and on behalf of the Warners. But the point I am making here, in terms of the utilizing state resources to facilitate their friends and family so that they come up to scratch and be in a position to make more money. Because when that building doesn't have water and it is being supplied from WASA or from the fire service, it shows that that is inadequate and should not have been there in the first place, or it should have been terminated for a better accommodation that would include, of course, independent supply of water to deliver to the occupants and those who are engaged on state business within the confines of that premises and or building. Well, in the case of Warner, guess what? A big announcement was made by Stuart Young indicating that for the children and the people of Sealots, there was declaring the removal of a derelict cemetery, a boat cemetery, a marine cemetery just beyond the shores of Sealots on the western side. They cleared it up, and Stuart Young was boasting that it was done for the recreational expansion or opportunities to utilize the waters that would have crashed or would have strewn the shores of Sealots on that side, and that nobody else could do it. And that, of course, they should give the government then praise. And then it turned out that those derelict boats and abandoned ships, etc., marine machinery, was moved in order to accommodate and to give Warner the access to a port. Yeah, access to a port, so that items that they either are shipping out or shipping into Trinidad would be easily facilitated. But yet still this wicked, evil, deceptive, self-serving, corrupt group of individuals, in this case Stuart Young, telling us that, listen, it's the people of Sealots would benefit from the environmental enhancement that they provided by cleaning up and taking away all those derelict ships and boats and other equipment that would have been left abandoned near the shore in Sealots. They did it for Warner. That's the point I am making. Nothing different to what the caller has said with respect to what? With respect, of course, to the licensing office in San Fernando. So that's just not waste time. But no program could end without, of course, emphasizing the hypocrisy of Rowley and the superficial and superfluous nature of his sudden concern, when in fact he should have none, because of course he knew and he knows that they did evil to the people, and all of the corrupt and the abuse and the profligacy that we disclose or expose tonight is not only real, but they have orchestrated it. But let's hear him in another iteration, similar to the email gate matter, these phantasmagorical lies, as he displayed, of course, with respect to some incident involving Interpol. Listen to this.
I notice the opposition leader has launched an attack on the government and the Office of the Attorney General with respect to its effort at fighting white-collar crime. I'm putting you all on notice. It is not by accident that the opposition leader is now like a dog with a rag attacking the Attorney General and asking questions about what deal he made with Nelson. You know who Nelson is? Nelson is a British Queen's Counsel. No ordinary person, a British Queen's Counsel who in the hands of his lawyers turns state witness to extricate facts and figures, date and time, telling Trinidad and Tobago, cooperating with us so the police could put in handcuff members of the cabinet of Kamla Prasad Bisesa for public money that has gone missing in their racket. I notice the opposition leader has launched an attack on the government and the Office of the Attorney General with respect to its effort at fighting white-collar crime. I'm putting you all on notice. It is not by accident that the opposition leader is now like a dog with a rag attacking the Attorney General and asking questions about what deal he made with Nelson. You know who Nelson is? Nelson is a British Queen's Counsel. No ordinary person, a British Queen's Counsel who in the hands of his lawyers turns state witness to extricate facts and figures, date and time, telling Trinidad and Tobago, cooperating with us so the police could put in handcuff members of the cabinet of Kamla Prasad Bisesa for public money that has gone missing in their racket.
Lennox, your mic off. Your mic off. I just called to tell you your mic off.
Oh, yes, sorry about that. Sorry about that. My apology. Yes, my mic was off. But let me just go quickly to say what I was saying in synopsis. Thank you very much, caller. Otherwise, I would have been talking in vain because it is critical. I was making the point quickly that while Rowley was saying that, and simultaneously Anand Ramlogan and Ramdeen were charged by the DPP because of the evidence adduced in that same scenario that Rowley was up and down the country boasting about, that of course Vincent Nelson is a Queen's Counsel, and of course the whole episode was about fighting white-collar crime and for members of the Kamala Prasad Bissesa government to be put in handcuffs. He was saying that. And when the information did come true that it was all a concoction, a fabrication by Rowley, he, his cabinet, and in particular center to all of this was Al-Rari. Not only was Al-Rari moved from the position of Attorney General, let us not waste time with that, it's as a result of that. And secondly, we learned that the statement, the witness statement, was extracted by a benefit of $10 million that was given to Nelson. And let's face it, in no criminal matter, let me repeat, in no criminal matter, inducement of a financial nature is countenanced by any court. Any court. So even if the DPP did not withdraw those matters, that was doomed to fail when that information would have come out. In criminal matters, a fellow who goes as a state witness, the fellow doesn't even know, just as how he had difficulty in explaining the role of Interpol today. He doesn't even know that you cannot provide inducement such as financial inducement to have a witness go or have a witness statement and someone go as witness against an accused in a criminal matter. Not even in a civil matter, but the criminal matter is much more circumscribed and much more pregnant and has devastating consequences for the liberty and the freedom of the accused if it turns out that that situation occurred. So they give him $10 million in exchange for that. No way. If he was one of the persons involved in the alleged criminal activity, the best he could get is that he will not be prosecuted. But he agreed even to be prosecuted because of the $10 million. And what we learned, the most bizarre, the most inhumane, the most, what I consider to be barbaric conduct of these people, the Rowley administration and his cohorts, Al-Rari in this case, and the entire cabinet, is that the man had an urgent medical cancer problem. And he wanted the money to go to England to save his life. And Al-Rari and they dangled that money that he deserved anyway because he worked for that according to the court documents under the UNC and was entitled to it. But Al-Rari and them told him that they will appeal and appeal and appeal and he will never get it, knowing full well that he wants the money in order to, of course, cure or to at least seek medical attention in England. And they never gave it. That is the beast. So you understand why they have no qualms in, of course, killing 5,000 persons during COVID, as they did when, of course, they asked the senior citizens to come out and get vaccines that never existed. And Rowley simply said that it was a failed attempt, that they never had vaccines, while of course triggering a mass infection scenario that caused the death ultimately of 5,000 of our citizens in this country, and the plunge, of course, the families of these elderlies into trauma. Yes, that is what this man did. And mind you, on top of that, while of course coming in a press conference and telling us that, listen, I'm sorry, but of course we were never ready, we never had the vaccines and so on, and we apologize, never put a cent towards the funeral or the burial of those loved ones that was subjected to the macabre, the death episode, the killing episode of senior citizens in this country. You should have no sympathy for this evil called Rowley. That is what they did. And all he did when the information came out, two things he did. He then changed his tongue from what he is saying now and say that the cabinet didn't know anything. The cabinet didn't know anything, and simply, of course, move Al-Rari from the office of the Attorney General and put him in the Ministry of Urban Development and Local Government, and he believed that done day. That done day. So he literally rewarded the man. And therefore one can simply say Rowley was part and parcel, and his entire cabinet was in fact the opposite of what Rowley was claiming, having regard to what we know now, or what we knew that he was boasting about. Let's hear him again, now that you know all the facts, and that my mic has returned to the point of sharing the information with you. Listen to him again.
I notice the opposition leader has launched an attack on the government and the office of the Attorney General with respect to its effort at fighting white-collar crime. I'm putting you all on notice. It is not by accident that the opposition leader is now like a dog with a rag, attacking the Attorney General and asking questions about what deal he made with Nelson. You know who Nelson is? Nelson is a British Queen's Counsel. No ordinary person, a British Queen's Counsel who in the hands of his lawyers turns state witness to extricate facts and figures, date and time, telling Trinidad and Tobago, cooperating with us so the police could put in handcuff members of the cabinet of Kamala Prasad Bissessa for public money that has gone missing in their racket.
Of course, he saw then, and is the case now, he saw in others that which is in him and his cabinet and the PNM in general. People, of course, we have come to the end of tonight's program. Thank you very much, of course, for being such a good audience and contributors. And, of course, we will do it again for you tomorrow night. Don't forget, of course, tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Mikey, and myself, as we continue, of course, with these and other issues that, of course, are of interest to you. And we believe strongly that in the fullness of time, you will come to the realization that what we had for government and governance really and truly is a shambolic state of affairs. It was no damn good. It was inimical to the interests of Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, we must give, of course, a full credence to the tenacity and the stateswomanship of course, Kamala Prasad Bissessa, the present Prime Minister, and, of course, give the government some time in order, of course, to rectify and to make adjustments and ameliorate our circumstances, because, as you would see tonight, there's a lot of mess that the PNM left the country in. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And once again, don't forget, tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Michael, and myself, as we continue with these and other matters.
Now foundation grassroots, you got to know the truth. If you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where to go. Look at culture and Anthony Selassie, say so.
Long ago,
long time ago.
Yes, long ago. Pirates had their fun in the burning sun. 16 men and a dead man's chase. Yo, yo.
cause we pull up every gap. Cut me mother belly and the money them a bet. Me see what kind of baby, mama she a get. Chop. Is it a king? Is it a princess? So you see me generation travel through this trap.